On today's episode, what happens when you combine castles, coasters, Caligula, and Jack the Ripper with a death metal flair? All this and more on GonstFM Off Air. Welcome, ghouls, ghoulettes, and guesties to GonstFM Off Air, the official podcast companion to 66.6 GonstFM, the radio station dedicated to the band Ghost and the wider Gonst community, broadcasted live once per month on the Stationhead app. I'm your host, Richie, aka Papa X, as so lovingly named by all of you Gonstlings. I've got a very special guest today, y'all. Chances are, if you've got a t-shirt, and it's a Ghost t-shirt, you're wearing this guy's art, and there have been plenty of designs out, and the further you dive into this art, the deeper the rabbit hole goes, because I think it brings a much-needed fierceness to the goofy nature, sometimes, of the band Ghost. My guest today is an illustrator and an all-around cool motherfucker. This is Noah Cutter Meihoff. How are you doing, my friend?
I am doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for coming on. I've been wanting to chat with you for a long fucking time. I think I speak for all of us whenever I say we own at least all of your shirts. Not just one, we own at least all of them.
That makes me happy to hear. Yeah.
Dude, your art is great. And that's what really drew me in, because I know just from short chats with you and then visiting your Instagram page, which everybody out there should be following, and you can scroll to the show notes below and check that out. You have a lot of really detailed art that kind of goes into heavier territory for like what Ghost is generally considered, which I think, again, is kind of much needed in a sense to kind of counterbalance the goofy nature that they put out sometimes, because lest we forget, Ghost started out, forever ago, whenever the term black metal meant true black metal, where it was more melodic and shit, but it brought that spooky kind of nature to it. And I think this all kind of encapsulates the evil side of them. I think my favorite piece is the Spitalfields Nemesis t-shirt.
Yes, I mean, yeah, we can get right into it, but I think mainly what you're bringing up here is kind of the goal I've tried to bring with my merch designs. And it's like, I do have some kind of goofier merch designs, but I am a death metaler. So like, I try to bring that angle. Like, of course, I love Ghost. I love My Chemical Romance. I love all those bands. But at the core, like, I'm always going to go back to being into underground death metal, which what I appreciate about kind of that angle that I feel like I'm trying to bring is we got to remember, like, Tobias started as a death. That's where Tobias's roots are, is in death metal. So while Ghost is not a death metal band, he started with Repugnant, which is an awesome death metal band. I'd love to see a Repugnant return one day. But,
Same.
That one Repugnant album is like, it's one of my favorite death metal albums. So,
dude, we're all waiting on a Mary Gore return. Trust me.
Yeah. Well, and I think the thing about that too is basically when I wanted to start doing merch for Ghost, and kind of what I ended up approaching them with in the beginning was like, I've always liked their merch because I think there's a very broad range of styles, and that's what I appreciate. It's not just one kind of style you see. There's all these different, there's so many good ones, you have like Yuki's work. I've always loved their work. And for a while, that was like a lot of the stuff that was coming out. And then you have obviously like Johnny's work, who came in around the same time as me, actually, where he's one of the others who sort of does the more like rendered, heavily rendered styles. And if you go back, you still see some of his work every now and then, but like David Brimley, he was one of the first working with Ghost, and I was always inspired by those, and he did some of those single covers. So, it's this big, and then you got like Sam Dunn, who does probably like the most Ghost designs right now. If you see her page, it's like she'll always put out this grid of like 1,000 Ghost designs she's done.
Right.
So it's kind of goals in a way, I've only put out about, it goes up to like 9 if you include like the gargoyle ones I did, which has like 2 extra designs. But, who's counting? I just hope to keep doing stuff with them. And it's looking like I probably will. So that's awesome. And again, like what you're saying, I just want to kind of bring this other angle, because I think sometimes we forget that there are a lot of fans of Ghost who are not really metal fans, but there are a lot of fans of Ghost who are metal fans. And I hope to kind of bring those two together That's at least my goal with the style I bring to it. Because I don't really believe in gatekeeping. I don't really believe in keeping genres separate or fan groups separate. I think we can all intermingle happily if we just try. So
it's not
that's
even
kind
wrong.
of the goal I bring to it.
It's not even wrong, man. Like that's something I preach a lot. And I have all kinds of music. Like before we even started recording, I was telling you that I went to a fucking EDM show a couple of years back.
Yeah.
And there's metal in there too. Like there's an artist named Sullivan King that is a fucking shredder on guitar, and he's so good. And he brings some heavy ass shit to that genre. I feel like you can mingle, like you said, if you just fucking try, you know? And looking at your designs, man, I think the first one I remember seeing was the Caligula coin for Mariana Cross. And that was from also on the Message from the Clergy EP release. And it's such a cool
total
design.
Surprise too. I had no clue they were going to use it for that. And then they were like, oh, by the way, can we use this as a single cover? And I was like, yeah, you can use it as a single cover. Because it started out as just a merch design. And then it was like, nah, I guess this just works for just so happens their most popular song they've ever put out, which really took me. I mean, it was like I got knocked on my feet by that. It's still like so cool to go on any streaming service and see that at number one. It's like I got to pinch myself. I just feel super grateful, you know?
Dude, and what a juxtaposition too. Like we were just speaking about how we want to bring together, you know, people that are into like really heavier side of metal and then people that are into Ghost, which is a different side of metal because yes, I said Ghost and metal in the same sentence. Suck my ass.
You can. I mean, they are heavy. Like I think anytime there's heaviness in something, there is, you know, a metal element. And whether or not you consider them like capital M metal, I don't really think matters. I just think like they have heavy songs. Like, what do you want? You know?
Yeah. Good tunes is good tunes, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, I loved that it was that look of the Caligula design and then the song style being what it is. You know, it's supposed to be based in the late 60s, early 70s, really, you know, that era. And then the next design I remember was the Spitalfields Nemesis design, which, like I said, that's my favorite design. It's so fucking badass. Like it's very straightforward to the point. It's the one T-shirt that I have the hardest time getting a hold of in my size because that fucker always sells out, which should be a testament to its popularity.
Is it still selling out?
Yes.
Is it still selling out? Damn. That's good to hear.
Yeah, dude, that's a popular one. Like, it really is. And like I said, that's the one I've had the hardest time getting a hold of at a 2X. And I'm just like, motherfucker.
Well, and it's actually like, I mean, that's one of my favorite designs. I have like, when I first started out, one of my big things is what I approached, you know, the merch company / band with. I was like, all right, well, how can I kind of get my stuff into, like, how can I get my foot in the door? And it was basically like, well, they like parody designs. You know, a lot of their popular designs are like parodies of movies or like famous artworks or things like that. So those being the first two designs that they had put out that I had sent them, is I was like, all right, well, I'm going to kind of take the route that they're familiar with, which is the parody design. And then maybe we can continue to make original designs that aren't based on anything necessarily from there. So those first two designs, obviously they're the parody designs of like Caligula, which, you know, I don't know whether it's a good thing or not that I introduced a new generation to Caligula. It's one of my favorite movies, actually. I know some people think it's trashy, but like, I truly think if it didn't have the adult content in it, it probably would have Oscars.
Okay,
you know?
Look, dude, if this is gonna be on your level, trust me. So one of my old bands, we wrote a song, and like this was forever ago. This was like 2005, and we were just like, we need a good title for this. Because it was about like deception and a whole bunch of other shit, and we named it. Even Caligula had his reasons. So that's like, you know, real like, okay, we're gonna put this out there. You know what I'm saying? Like, because it was meant to be an eye opener of a song. Because like anybody that knows that particular name and knows about it, it's pretty fucked up.
Oh yeah, I mean, he was awful. I mean, and that's the thing is like the movie, what I appreciate about it, and what I appreciated about it actually being like technically an adult film, the most expensive adult film ever made, by the way, still to date, is I mean, it kind of like, some people don't like that part about it, but I honestly think as art, whether it was made in that way or not, I think it adds to the fact that this was one of the most disgustingly indulgent people of all time. And like, yeah, he was terrible, but like it's just, I don't know, maybe I think it's hard to articulate like why I feel the way I feel about that movie. I saw a lot of people, and I'll get to Spitalfields in a sec because there's a segue here. But with Caligula, it was one of those things of like, some people I saw afterwards being like, oh yeah, it's based on, the Caligula movie poster, which first off, I want to kind of say that like, when I started doing these like parody designs, I wanted to make sure they were like well-known images. Cause you never want to like base something on a not super well-known image. And then it just kind of looks like you're trying to take credit for it.
Right.
As opposed to like, you're not going to think that Ghost came up with that image. That is Caligula,
Right.
Hence why they have the Jaws ones, they had the Shining one. I have that shirt from way back. But it's funny when it came out, a lot of people were like, yeah, like it's based on this movie Caligula. Like, I'm assuming this is maybe a younger audience who doesn't know about this and probably shouldn't be watching Caligula, by the way. Just going to put that word of warning out there. But I guess if you are of the age to watch Caligula, I recommend it. But it's just funny in that so many people were like, but don't watch Caligula. It's like super graphic. It's super, it's not good. And I was like, man, I love Caligula.
Yeah.
I was like, hell no, man. And I think it's awesome that like the band actually like went for that, because you think back to the time, like a lot of the old Papas were a lot sleazier. Like Papa 4 is not really as like sleazy and nasty as like 2 and 1 were,
right.
I kind of wanted to bring it back to like that like kind of gross edge, which I guess is, seeing as it was used for a Papa Zero or song, then it sort of worked for that. But then again, the Spitalfields Nemesis is based on, it's probably like the most infamous image of Jack the Ripper from the newspapers at the time. So, that was published in 1888 in Punch magazine. There's an illustration by, classic illustrator John Tenniel. It's sort of this depiction of like Jack the Ripper as like this phantom figure, like he's a ghost. Because, you never found out who he was, right. This and that. So I was like, well, they have a song about Jack the Ripper. Like, I'll do that. And speaking of which, the Caligula one was mainly also inspired by that, Impera. I can't remember if I drew it before or after Impera came out at this point. I think it was after, but it was like, because it's based on empires and you have the Roman stuff in there with like Caesarian and those sorts of things. I wanted to bring this like Roman empire vibe to it. And likewise, there's the Jack the Ripper thing. So it was kind of drawing from both them and like how they almost retroactively plant themselves in pop culture and history of yesteryear. So that's what those two designs were about. And I love that Jack the Ripper design. It is pretty similar to the original design, which I've been tried to be as clear about as possible, saying, hey, yeah, that's a John Tenniel work. He's been dead for 100 years, so we can do it. But,
But still.
Yeah. And even, with the Caligula one, it's strictly like a parody. Like we're kind of bouncing off of pop culture and things like that. So, but it's funny, with the Spitalfields Nemesis design, there's actually two. There's the one by Alex Crayu that actually just recently surfaced. I believe it was on tour, but he had one based on the Nemesis of Neglect by John Tenniel as well. And, I kind of feel bad in a way that like mine dropped almost immediately after, and then his took a while to drop, but it's also a really cool one. So he reached out to me and he was like, just so you know, I wasn't ripping off your design. And I was like, no, I didn't think you were. Like, we both based it on this really famous image of Jack the Ripper. And it's like cool because it's two different interpretations of the same image.
Yeah.
Check out Alex's work as well, because he's done some cool ghost designs as well. He did that one with like he's on the horse. It's like the charger design.
I just bought that t-shirt finally because like I finally was able to find one in my size. And I was like, oh, because I've been wanting that one too. And dude, that design is so fucking cool because Papa looks a little younger in that one, and like he's got the the bangs on it's God.
He's got a really cool style, and it's just cool. I just think it's cool that it's like. There's these two designs based on technically the same thing. And I'm sure time has lapsed because the band's been around for, about 15 years now at this point.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. But I'm sure that, there have been similar repeat designs. But honestly, there's so many people making artwork out there. There's bound to be some repeats. However, it's just cool that when he reached out to me, he was very sweet about it. But it was like, nah, dude, like, it's cool. Like, I think it's kind of cool that we both had the same exact idea. It's like, well, here's this popular, famous Jack the Ripper image, and then we kind of both went for it. But I wish his would have surfaced sooner, honestly, because it's an awesome design.
But that's what I love about art is that the interpretation aspect of it, like he might have seen something you haven't seen or like, vice versa, because it's all about eyes and perception and like how you see it, because what you see in your head is not exactly what everybody else is going to see. So
yeah, and he like kind of had this interpretation of it as like, it's honestly looks more like a typical Jack the Ripper. He's got like a top hat, and he's got like a scythe. I'm literally just looking at it right now so I can reference it. But he's got like a scythe. He's got like a ghoul head that he's holding as a lantern. So he's almost more of this like Reaper figure as opposed to mine's like much bloodier slasher.
I have that one on a draw bag, like a drawstring bag.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool. And then you get something like Caligula, which honestly, one of my hopes is that I think Caligula is a movie that never really got the appreciation that it deserved because of kind of the road bumps and like you have to get over the fact that it is a certain type of movie. So I was kind of hoping that with that design and maybe if it being out there, it would resurface some interest in that movie and there would be, I don't know, a revitalized appreciation for it, even if it's a small group of people, Because really it's a love letter to both of those things. Whenever I do like a parody design, it's a love letter to whatever I really enjoy. And when I see similarities between something that Ghost would like and that's something I would like, I want to draw attention to both, I hope people discover Ghost through it, and I hope people discover like one of my favorite movies through it,
Yeah, for sure. And for those of you out there that may be on the fence about like, well, who the fuck's in it? Or what is it about? Look, Malcolm McDowell's in it, and there's been a Ghost Clockwork Orange design, so goddamn, this is like 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon, whatever the fuck you want to call it, about that. Yeah. So like Malcolm McDowell's in it, Helen Mirren's in it, Peter O'Toole's in it. I mean, go fucking check it out. Yeah. It's it's worth a watch.
But there are very graphic adult scenes because it is technically a adult film. So just know that going ahead of time. I think there's edits that don't have that in it, if that's something that listeners out there want to check out, but it's an incredible. I mean, it's like an epic. It's just like it's visually one of my most influential movies I've ever seen. I have like the Ultimate Edition that has like 3 different cuts of the movie.
Shit,
yeah. So I'm a big fan.
Dude, I'm a movie buff too. I was telling you before, we started rolling about in my family's video store and stuff. Like I like Arrow Video and Synapse Films and Vinegar Syndrome. Like I love that those companies are giving us these 4K remastered from negative films that never see the light of day otherwise. Like, I don't know if you know about this movie, but if you don't, I highly recommend Deadbeat at Dawn. It's a fucking killer ass.
I've heard of it. I've seen the image of the bearded guy running around with a shotgun or whatever, but I've never seen it.
Oh, it's good, dude. It's this guy from Ohio, like, quit his 3rd semester of college with the budget that he had to go to college that year he was in film school, and he dropped it to make this movie in Dayton, Ohio in 1980. He filmed it from like 1980. Oh God, I don't want to get the dates wrong. I think he filmed it over the course of like, I don't know, 3 years and shot it on film, like shot it on actual film, like spent the money on the film, and he and his friends shot it. And it's very grimy. It's very, very DIY, and it's fucking great. Like it's the same guy that did the Manson Family and also did, he was supposed to do a music video for Skinny Puppy. And I think he was shooting the music video, or I think he shot the music video for Skinny Puppy. He did a trailer for a movie with Ogre that was supposed to be out called Chunk Blower, and all that ever happened was it was just a fucking trailer. But the dude had his own style, and it was very punk rock. And yeah, dude, like Sam Raimi really praised Deadbeat at Dawn a lot. Was just like, this is like the punk rock of fucking cinema, and everybody should watch it. So
yeah,
I'm low key.
Awesome.
Yeah, no. So I'm low key waiting on like, I know it'd be fucking obscure as shit for a Ghost design, but I am waiting on like something like that, like a Deadbeat at Dawn inspired fucking design.
A deep cut. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Because like that's my shit. I love old shitty cult films and horror movies and B movies and all that shit. So any kind of like film references I notice in merchandise, I'm 110% like fuck yes about it.
Yeah, and it's always one of those things which and it's like, I know like in interviews and stuff, and I haven't read all of them, but like I know like Tobias has said he's a huge, film buff and loves like horror and things like that. So like anytime there are these film references and merch, it really comes from a place of like, hey, this movie's awesome. Go check it out if you haven't.
Exactly.
I personally think, like, rather than, like, I think some people, like, sometimes maybe just do it to think it's funny or something like that. But personally, like, the angle I've taken with it and the angle that I've kind of interpreted is these are sort of things that have built up the influences of either the band or, I don't know, just, being a fan of movies and having that influence. And it's reflected back in a way that what I love about kind of the lore element of Ghost is that it's through this lens that, the clergy has had this influence on pop culture over the years. So it's kind of this backwards way of doing it. But that's kind of how I thought of it when I was doing those. But yeah, no, it's cool. I'm a big film fan as well. You're talking about Vinegar Syndrome, TerrorVision?
Yeah.
Yeah, TerrorVision. So TerrorVision's based out of Savannah, run by Ryan Graveface, who runs Graveface Records, which is the record store I go to in Savannah. I have friends who've worked there. Yeah, super cool guy. I mean, he's putting out stuff. They do a Fright Fest every year where they show a bunch of awesome deep cut movies. They showed one, and one of the guys from Vinegar Syndrome always comes because he's also a part of TerrorVision. So I think his name's Brad. But yeah, no, like I want to say 2 years ago, there's this shot on video movie. It was like done over a weekend or something like that called Sledgehammer. And it's this super, yes, it's like this super DIY, but it was awesome being in like this theater of people. And it was like at this Savannah Arts Center. So, it's like weird seeing this movie here, but it's awesome because it's such a like time capsule. And just the appreciation you have for people saying like, fuck it, I'm going to make this by myself. And that's really, that's the ethos you got to take into creating anything is, you have to take the steps yourself to get to where you want to be. And hey, maybe your first effort might not be great, and that's like fine. Like, so what? Yeah, sometimes you look back at these movies and they're kind of corny and stuff, but like, I don't know. Yeah. Again, look at, I don't know. It's funny. I was about to say like, look at like someone like Sam Raimi, but his first movies are awesome. So it's like,
right, dude. It's like,
or like Toby Hooper. It's like Texas Chainsaw was one of his first movies and it's still his best.
Yeah.
So like, but yeah, no, it's definitely that element. And so it's cool you bring up like Vinegar Syndrome because I love that stuff too. And
yeah, that's a go-to for me. That's a big go-to for me because they put out the shit I want to see. Like I only ever heard of some of these movies in passing. Like there's a few movies that I would read about in like fucking Fangoria and they would never come out, or like I would read about them in like Empire magazine and it wasn't even like for a comic book. It was for just some like indie filmmaker. And like, oh, this movie sounds good. Never saw the light of day. And then like here we are like 25 years after the fact. And Vinegar Syndrome's like, oh yeah, well, by the way, we're doing this, and this. And I'm like, fucking right. So like I go support it because I feel like, because, art doesn't
you got to buy that stuff too,
dude.
Because that's how you perpetuate it. You got to support it financially.
Yeah. I'm a big physical media person, big time. I buy vinyl records. I buy cassette tapes, CDs, fucking magazines, books, film. Like I still buy all my movies because like I had a buddy that bought something on Amazon like 3-4 years ago and they fucking revoked it. He was like, where's my movie? I'm like, bro, I have a copy. Where's your copy? He's like, I bought it on digital. I was like, that's why I don't buy on digital.
No, it's true. It's like, even I guess the only digital things I buy are like video games and stuff these days, but like then again, you can't even get a fucking physical copy of like Baldur's Gate 3. You can like only get it digitally, which is annoying. Yeah, no, physical media is definitely such an important thing. And I'm glad that, there's been the vinyl resurgence. I don't personally buy vinyl myself because, I'm a freelance illustrator and I have no money. So, but I do buy CD and cassette when I, can shell out the money. And it's like, I always wait for Bandcamp Fridays and stuff like that, to support bands directly. I'm a fan of a lot of underground bands. So, which of course, if it's not on Bandcamp Friday, Bandcamp has started to take a bigger and bigger cut ever since, they sold to Epic Games and then Epic Games sold them to someone else. So that's been frustrating, especially because I have a lot of friends who sell through Bandcamp and I see the shit they go through. But it's something you always gotta. And recently I've gotten more into cassettes as well. I was always a CD guy, and in high school I started to collect vinyl, and then it was like, well, I need to sell these, and so I sold half my collection. And then I sold all my vinyl, and then I sold all my CDs. So I've been rebuilding over the years. when I can. So because I always get so pissed. I'm like, God, I sold that like 10 years ago, and I'm so mad about it. But yeah, especially like the cool thing about underground releases, you bring up like cassettes. I feel like so many like great underground bands will do like cassettes of like EPs and stuff. And, you know, there's a great, if I could shout out an awesome label, is Grimestone Records, run by the awesome Abysmal Spectre, great dude, who he's got several good bands. Old Nick, Bloody Keep, and Curtain Wall are like his main 3 projects he does. And I mean, I would think people who like Ghost, specifically like early Ghost, would actually probably dig his stuff. If you like more of like a black metal edge to it, which, you know, because Ghost never really fully dipped. They were more doomy, you know, where in the beginning they had, I don't want to say this term stoner rock, because they weren't really stoner rock, but, you know, I mean, it was along the lines of like early doom, like inspired. Blue Oyster Cult also, which is not doom. And of course, we've had a gazillion people be like, oh, they're a Blue Oyster Cult ripoff, which I don't agree with.
No.
Because I grew up listening to Blue Oyster Cult, and yeah, there's similarities, but like, okay, something is inspired by something else.
Right. And the similarities is like where it ends, because it's not even a ripoff. It's you know, it's just influence. Like, I mean, for fuck's sake, even King Diamond had come out and been like, yeah, so like, cool, they took influence from fucking Merciful Fate. Awesome. I don't think it sounds like Merciful Fate, but I'm glad that they have influence. And it's like, yeah, thank you. Finally, somebody fucking said it that's in the shit, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
no, and King's a fan of the band. That's the thing. It's like King likes Ghost, which is Rob Halford likes Ghost. It's like, I don't know. These are these titans that like inspired so many bands, and they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. Just take it at face value and enjoy it. You know?
Yeah. Like,
and King Diamond's like my all-time fan. I mean, to me, there's no bar that is higher than King Diamond.
That fucker is amazing, and he still sounds so good.
Oh man, I saw him like 5 years ago in Atlanta, and he's, you know, in his 60s, still sounded awesome. You know, he's a backup vocalist, a female backup vocalist with him, but really it just kind of boosts the sound, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
He was great. That was such a good tour. We're still waiting on that album. He put a single out like 5 years ago from it.
It's supposed to come out this year.
Happened.
I saw an article saying, I saw an article saying that he's supposed to like roll it out this year finally and do a tour, which I would love to go to that. I fucking love King Diamond. Dude.
I'll drop everything. I mean, I'll catch him. I heard some rumor somewhere that I don't want to speak on that because I don't know what I should and shouldn't be saying. But no, but
fuck it, we'll fix it in post.
Yeah, no. Sometimes I hear things through the grapevine, but I never know what people I'm talking to are privy to what information. These are just friends; they're not like industry people, so it's like I'm probably not a problem. But like, no, but I mean, he's one of those people. It's like I'll just drop. I'm so pissed I didn't catch Merciful Fate when they did that tour a couple years ago.
Me too.
I think it was 2022.
Yeah.
I mean, I was so pissed. I missed that. I had like 3 shows I was going to within that week, and I live super rural, so it's like going out. You know, I live 3 hours away from Atlanta, so it's like sometimes I have to drive there and drive back in the same night. So it's
you got a plan.
Yeah, I got a plan for it. So like we saw Boulay Brothers Dragula, the world tour. It's going on right now, and we have to get like an Airbnb and stuff. I have friends in Atlanta that I can stay with, but sometimes you don't want to bug them.
I feel that.
And sometimes you want to make a vacation out of it, so we kind of did that. So
Houston, Texas is kind of like my my landing zone because like where I'm located at, I'm like 2 hours from Houston, 3 hours from New Orleans. So I have.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've got options.
So, but it's kind of centrally located, so you can go to both if you want to. That's nice.
Yeah, and that's the good thing is that like if a band skips over New Orleans to go to Houston, I just go to the Houston show, which I go mostly anyway because it's closer and I'm more familiar with the area. But I missed Merciful Fate on that tour. I know, the Misfits are coming to Austin, and I'm pretty fucking sure I missed the boat on that one because, first of all, the fucking ticket prices were outrageous, which of course.
Oh yeah, I mean it's original because it's original Misfits, right? It's with Danzig and
yeah, and I think Suicidal Tendencies was on the bill too.
Oh jeez.
Yeah, dude, it was one of those fucking shows where they had like a mega ass lineup. I was like, oh my god, but.
Misfits is so funny nowadays too because it's like that was never a band that played like these ginormous shows, and now it's like you can only see them at like Madison Square Garden, which is insane, because it's like they played. I mean, it's like literally like they're this classic horror punk band, and they would play these tiny venues and stuff like that. It's like I'm pretty sure my uncle said he saw them, and he was like, Yeah, it was nothing to write home about, when they were in their prime, so it's like, I don't know, it's funny, but yeah, no, but that's the cool thing too, just kind of going back to the underground thing. I get derailed a lot, but
Same.
yeah, no. But like one of my favorite labels, Grimestone, run by Abysmal Spectre of all those bands, is he has this really incredibly like catchy sound. Like he uses all this synth stuff but he mixes it with black metal. So, but it's not in a way that's like dungeon synth. There is dungeon synth and there is dungeon synth groups on the label who are also great. But it's like nowadays it's like if he puts out an album, it's like I'm always gonna buy that, And he put out like a church, like how like churches would have like Bible tapes on cassette, and they'd be in the clamshell with like several cassette tapes.
Oh my god, yes, I remember that shit.
Yeah, he just put out a box set of all the Curtain Wall albums on tape in one of those, and it's like one of my favorite things I've ever bought. So, there's people like. There's a lot of these underground groups who are doing this really cool stuff. And like, if you want it to keep happening, you got to buy it, man. You got to support these people because Spotify is not supporting them, so like.
Nope. I just had, a few weeks ago that had on Matt Lidwin from 616 from Wisconsin. And he was saying the same thing. He was like, dude, Spotify does not pay out worth a shit. He said, if you want to support bands, yeah, dude. He was like, if you want to support bands at all, the best way to do it is buy directly from them. Like if you have like even Ghost, like I say that as big of a band as they are, Spotify doesn't give a fuck. Spotify is not going to pay out worth a shit to a band that is huge, nor a band that is small, especially to a band that is not big. Right. Like, so if you want to support these bands, buy their vinyls, buy their physical releases, buy their t-shirts and shit directly from them. Because even venues are fucking taking merch cuts now.
Yeah, which luckily there's that whole lawsuit where the government is suing Live Nation and basically trying to rip them apart, which is awesome, and Dude, I appreciate that.
Did that actually go through?
Last I heard, it's happening. So I don't know if it's. I'm not a news source, but like from the last thing I saw, they were trying to do something like that.
Fuck, so I hope so. They need to.
But I think the government is taking action against them, which is promising, but I don't know. You'd think with how loaded they are, they'd probably just get away with it. But
shit.
It's just funny. But it's nowadays. Like I'm doing a little better with freelance nowadays. Obviously, like prices have risen. I've moved. Wife and I got a house, so now there's a bunch of more shit we have to do. Granted, it's super rural, so it's not like I'm, paying LA prices for, a home. But so it's pretty manageable out here. But at the same time, nowadays I factored into my bills. It's like, all right, like one of my bills is like buying something from a band I like. You gotta. Granted, look, I still have Spotify Premium, which but again, that's one of the ways I discover bands, so that then I can go buy their stuff.
That's exactly how I use it too.
Yeah, you got to, it's like if you like something, nowadays I try just not even to think about it. Like if I like it, I get a copy. Because especially like I collect cassette because it's cheap. CD and cassette are cheaper. So I'm like, screw it. I'll pay $9 for a cassette. Is $9 really going to make that much of a difference? I mean, some months it does. But, when I can, I do it. I factor it into the bills, because as someone who works with a lot of underground bands, I know how much money they're putting into this, and half the time they don't even break even, which sucks to see. So like, as someone who works in that industry, if you can call it that, especially when it comes to the underground stuff, because a lot of these people are just pouring their guts and their money into these things to sometime get no return. I got to make sure that I'm at least like, if there's a band I like, I buy something from them. I can't be like just taking money from bands and then never buying albums, so
right.
That's it. To me, I guess it's maybe a karma thing because that's the area I work in, but like, you just got to do it. Just, I don't know. It's like set aside $10 a month and buy a CD. You know what I mean? Right. Like, even if it's just a little bit, and if not, share their stuff and then other people might,
Right, dude.
I mean, Ghost is huge and I don't think they're going to have a problem having people find them. But like, again, like a lot of smaller bands, they're going to struggle with that sometimes.
Right. No, that's why I like to share bands, because like it's not like the radio station that I do is not just Ghost music. Like we just did something called Metal Midsommar, and I like to play a variety of shit. And New Year's Eve, I do a show called New Year's Evil, where it's like, you know, this year it's going to be a 10-hour broadcast, but I like to play all kinds of shit, dude. I like to play all kinds of shit. And I cannot tell you the amount of people that have been like, hey, so like I discovered this band because I heard them on your broadcast. I've never heard of this band before. Right. And they'll go fucking listen. And that brings me and that brings me to what you were saying about like some of the stuff you were working on, because, you know, just going through your portfolio, you've worked with a lot of groups. Like there's you know, I was looking at your designs for like the Pallid Veil design, and then Spirit World and Imperial Triumphant, and like these are fucking amazing designs. And it's cool because like, and these are like bands
really awesome people too.
Yeah, dude, that's what I was gonna say. It's like these bands need the fucking exposure, you know?
Yeah, and you know, some of those bands, it's like if you take something like Pallid Veil, which literally is like one song from like 4 pretty big musicians that came together. But even so, like, it was kind of a boutique release on Total Dissonance Worship, run by an awesome guy who I've worked with, Simon, who just put out the new album by Acetas, which is like my best buds. I just did a bunch of art. I did 7 pieces, 2 of which are full gatefolds for their next album, which the band, you know, I mean, the label helped him out, but like, I know one of my buddies put in the extra money himself in order to get like the artwork printed properly in the full like booklets and stuff like that. So it's like these guys are like putting everything they got into this stuff. Yeah. You know, it just shows when, and it really shows in the products, and well, products is a hard way to put it, you know, relics, if you will. But yeah, no, and it's like bands like Imperial Triumphant, you know, those guys are awesome too. Zach, who I work with, super awesome guy. But they're another band where it's like really cool because it's like they have that visual kind of theatrical element as well. But at the same time, their shows are very much like you're in this swanky New York club. That's another band where it's like they're one of my favorite bands, and then I got to work with them, which is like awesome. And now it's like, now every now and then I just talk to Zach about Dark Souls and stuff like that, which is fucking cool. You know, it's after a while, you know, it doesn't become this like, oh, not to say I ever had this mentality of like, idolizing bands I like, because to me I've always been like, well, these are just people behind these things, you know.
Correct.
But like being a fan, you know, of bands, and then kind of definitely humbles you once you actually like get to work with them, because you see like all the work they are putting into this stuff. And you know, you sometimes think, especially with social media, it's like behind this veil, and you just see like the final product of stuff, and it's like, nah, man, it's like they've put so much into this stuff. Like, for example, like now, like you bring up Imperial Triumphant, they just put out a reissue of a 2018 album that I got to work on. 2018 Via Luxury, which is, I would say a lot of people consider it that it's like their best album. My personal favorite album is their last album, Spirit of Ecstasy, but Via Luxury is like one of their landmark albums. And they felt that, you know, it's like, they wanted a bigger release at the time, but you know, there were limitations, and now they've been able to put it out there on Century Media now.
Oh, good.
Which is a pretty, you know, it's not Warner Music, but like it's a pretty big label for metal. But it's cool to see like bands like them and actually see them be able to like put out this awesome release and like breathe new life into it. Not to say there was anything wrong with the original release. You know, I love the artwork by Andrew Tremblay from the original cover. So like when I redid the cover, it wasn't in a way to like best the artwork. It was a way to reinterpret the artwork and say like, well, like they just want to breathe new life into it. Like, how can I, what's my immediate interpretation of this album if I try and just put the original artwork out of my head? So it's like, that's what that was. And it's like this fantastical, gargantuan, mechanical theater production where like there's ghosts of flapper dancers, and like it's got this giant woman, and she's got a huge glass of champagne that this dying dancer is sitting in, and it's, you know, it was just and like the whole thing's on fire, and you know, it's just what I interpreted from it. And you know, it's like there are other artists who will interpret it differently, but that's what I appreciate about a lot of these bands. Like, especially, I mean, I think Ghost is the same way, as long as you include Papa in there somewhere. Right. But, you know, but like bands like, especially like Imperial Triumphant, you know, that's a band where like they approach artists for a reason, and they trust them because they appreciate their eye. You know, obviously they have the general direction, but you know, you get so much more of a breadth when you have multiple artists interpret your world, essentially, and they very much have this kind of world. So it's cool to see the various artists that have worked with people like them over the years, and that kind of goes back to bands like Ghost and all the different artists they work with. Granted, they have one, the GOAT, Zbigniew Mbielak, cover artist. I don't know how anyone beats him, but like...
Yeah, that dude's work is fucking brilliant, man, and just seeing that it's so good that Tobias goes back to him multiple times. Like the fact that like he got someone different to do.
I don't think you can have another LP artist. I mean, the EPs they do differently sometimes now, but like, nah. Like I think if they used another artist for a cover, I'd kind of be disappointed, honestly. Like for a main album cover.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Impera, I think that cover and Prequel are probably the very best of the bunch, and because I know you and I were talking about how great Prequel is, and like just what a fucking throwback to so much shit that one is, and the imagery, and then also like how much it ties into the lyricism and the music, and just that album fucks so hard. and again,
it ties back to something that a lot of people who really don't give Ghost much of a chance. It ties back into something that, I try to champion a lot in the stuff I do for them, in that cover, I mean, there's a lot of influences there. You have the Pope Innocent X painting, I think by Velasquez. I might be wrong. My art history teachers will shoot me. But if I'm wrong, but then also like it's a huge callback to Bestial Devastation, one of the first Sepultura EPs.
Yep.
Which is like, I mean, sometimes a lot of bands who like fans of like heavier bands and stuff, death metalers, black metalers, what have you, who like to gatekeep, they forget that like just because they are making something that's poppier and more accessible does not mean they don't have an appreciation for the same things that you like, So, it just takes a little bit of open-mindedness for people who are more into the niche stuff. Because honestly, would I even call Ghost niche at this point? I don't even know. They've gotten so big that it's like they were niche a little while ago, but nowadays it's like they've just, of course it's a niche, but it's not a small niche anymore, which is so freaking cool to see, man.
It's nice to see like more people take notice of it, because I mean that was the goal.
Yes.
Tobias a long fucking time ago had mentioned something about he wanted to do shows as big as Rammstein does fucking shows in Germany and stuff, because those motherfuckers kind of go all out when they do their stuff.
Right.
It's good to see that. Hopefully, like with this next upcoming album, hopefully they climb further to that goal, because I mean this past tour had the past fucking couple album releases actually, like you could see the ascension. They bust their asses, and I know for a fact, like Tobias is a fan of like underground shit, like still to this day. It's like you can't take that kind of love for what brought you to the dance out of the person behind the magic. Like it's, if anything, like he's being given a grander stage to put that magic on Front Street. So
right, and it's funny, I always see like people like post personally, like for me, I'm always like, I always just kind of view the band as it is, but like I'll see like, random people will just share pictures of him in public, which I think is maybe a little weird, but like he's always got like Bolt Thrower shirts on. He's always got like Dismember shirts on. It's like, those are like classic death metal bands. I mean, yeah, they're pretty well known classic death metal bands. They're not super underground at this point, but like that's where his roots are. I mean, he loves ABBA and all that sort of stuff too, but like a lot of his roots are in classic 90s death metal bands, which is my bread and butter. So it's cool to come to the creative side of some of their visuals with that angle as well. And something I feel like, I then again, I don't know the musical tastes of a bunch of their artists. I know like Zbigniew Mbielak is super into that stuff, and like black metal and stuff like that. So, and then, Merald, who's done he did a couple illustrations for Revolver, where he did one for Prequel and then he did one for Impera. And he does stuff for Necrot. I got a Necrot shirt. I got his work on right now. And, which is one of the probably my favorite current, like contemporary death metal band. So whenever I see those ties, like, yes, you can like like you can like the most niche non-music sounding music possible, but then you can also like something that is popular and catchy. Like, dude, like who cares? And I think personally, that's something that I hope people find out of my stuff. I hope that with Ghost, I've gained a much bigger audience over the last couple of years. I'm still not like, I wouldn't say I have like a massive following, but over the last couple of years, I've definitely tried to do everything I can to basically, I have a foot in the underground and then I have a foot in something like Ghost, where, you know, it's more kind of mainstream at this point, so that like fans who maybe have never explored like something like death metal or black metal or really just any of the underground bands I work with nowadays, they would never know about them. But because I am sharing work for Ghost and work for, like, for example, like Molten, awesome San Francisco thrash death metal band. Bristol, one of my buds, you know, check out that stuff. You know, so if you're a Ghost fan, you come to my page and you only really like Ghost and haven't checked out a lot of the other heavier stuff, I hope I'm providing an avenue for you to expand your musical avenues, you know? And if you don't want to, that's fine. But like, check out these other bands. Like, check out Molten, check out Acetas, check out Imperial Triumphant, check out Voimiton, Realms of Death, Magdalene. Like, I'm just naming random bands.
No, that's good, because I was going to ask you for musical recommendations.
Like, check them out, y'all.
You know, that's what I was saying.
Yeah, no, I mean, please, like, I urge anyone who finds my more like mainstream stuff to go and check out and support. And like, look, even if you just like my artwork, go buy the new Molten album. Because sorry, my cat's going crazy.
I got 3 of them. It's cool.
Go buy the new Molten album. Yeah. You know, go buy the new Molten album, Malicide. It has like, I mean, there's a shit ton of artwork in that thing. I mean, we worked our tails off. That album was a long time coming, and again, another labor of love. That band is incredible. I think it's an underground hit that like it's one of my favorite albums of the year. Granted, I've been listening to it for like 2 years because it's been in development for a while. But like, please, like, I urge everyone to please go, like, literally just go on my Instagram, go to any of the bands I work with, follow them, and just buy something. You know, you might like it. Take a listen. That's what I say. You know, I like having, my goal is to have one foot in the underground and then have one foot kind of more in the mainstream, just so I can maybe bring those two together. And granted, I don't expect everyone to like the same stuff. Like, if you like Ghost, you're not maybe necessarily going to like Imperial Triumphant, or vice versa, but you don't know till you try. You know, I mean, someone like Imperial Triumphant is a very out there sound, and it's not for everyone. But at the same time, I think there's an appeal to it that I think if you try to open up, I think you could really like, because those guys are masters, just like anybody else I've had the pleasure to work with. You know,
right, dude. And that's the thing is, that's what I like about following you, and then, you know, anybody else that does art. Especially like obviously Ghost, but like it's cool to see what else you guys dip your toes into with other artists, because I just had recommended this band to Johnny last week. They're called The Sun's Journey Through the Night. Have you ever heard of them?
Interesting. No, I haven't. I'll check them out though.
Yeah, you should. It's like I was trying to describe it to Johnny. It's really difficult to, because like the way their production is done is very ambient, and you would think for like death metal kind of sound, like that ambient is not something that you would like actually like layer into your production, but it feels like just a
depends
giant,
though.
It depends, like a fucking it sounds like a wall of fucking just onslaught of fuck you. You know, that gets good. I love it. They got an album called Worldless, and like Abolishing Consciousness and Voidwalker and Flood of Flames and Orion are really standout tracks on that one. So definitely give that a listen. I definitely love hearing, like, I'm so happy you spewed like all of these bands out, because like that's something I've been trying to do a lot more recently with any of my guests and friends that come on the shows. Like, hey, if you got something that you think anybody would like to check out, fucking throw it out there. It doesn't matter.
Oh yeah,
what it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, the big one right now is definitely Acetas. They just put out an album called Eden Trough, which is, it's a big shift from their last album. You know, their last album was like, it's like an hour, 20 minutes, super long, like extravagant. And then Eden Trough is under 30 minutes. And it's like just super tight, but like, I would say more proggy, you know, more ferocious, more fierce. It's like they took the last album and whittled it down. And their second album, False Peace, was the first album cover I really consider to have done. And I got to work on I do a lot of layout for a lot of bands I work with too, because I'm also a graphic designer. So, it's cool to have shifted from that to that. And it's like we've worked on this album since 2022 for the artwork. I mean, songwriting and recording and all that stuff is a whole other beast. Luckily, I get to, if I'm good friends with the band, I get to kind of, see that along the way. But nah, it's crazy because I haven't even revealed all the artwork. Maybe by the time this comes out, I'll have revealed all the artwork for it. But it's like that we've put out the cover and we put out 2 single artworks for it. But like I said before, that we made 7 pieces for it, and it's not like they're little spot illustrations either. Like my buddy Gage, he put the time and money in. Like he compensated me fairly too. And it's like, we're friends. And it's like, but he's like, I want to keep putting stuff. We want to make this an absolute behemoth of a release, make it a full audio visual experience. That's why I'm always like, don't just listen to the album, buy the album, because then you have like this collection of artwork as well, if you're into that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's the best part of it. And
that's got like a 12-page booklet. It's got a 12-page booklet. It's got 2 full artwork spreads. It's got like, one's vertical and then one's horizontal. It's like we put our guts into this thing, and it's like that is something I appreciate also, to kind of tie it back, because this is a Ghost show. To bring it back to Ghost is that's something I've always appreciated of all their albums. Granted, they have the money and resources to do it, which a lot of underground bands don't, which is, a bummer. But and I wish I could do literally everything for free. If I could do everything for free, I would, because when there's an album I believe in and I want to make stuff for it, there's a band I believe in, I want to make stuff for them, I wish I could just give it away. I can't, obviously, because I got to make a living, but I hope everybody knows that, the heart's in it just as much if I'm making a design for Ghost, or if I'm making a design for a band that's put out a demo that 10 people have heard. I don't care. Like, if I'm on board with you, I'm on board with you, man. It's weird to say like you're paying me to care, but like, if there's something I don't like, and I can afford to skip over it, I will. So like, I do care about all these things that I go into, regardless of who you are, as long as we're respectful to each other, it matters,
Yeah, dude. I'm the same way. Anytime people are like, hey, can you share this? Fuck yeah, I'll share it. Like, if if you want to share, they're like, oh, can you share it on your social media? Fuck yeah, I'll share it on my social media. Like, and especially if it's something that I come across on my fucking own, that I'm like, this is good. Why are more eyes not on this? Share. I tell people all the time, it costs nothing to share. It costs nothing to spread word of mouth.
I don't even think about it. It's like, I think this thing is cool. I share it instantly. I don't care. That's the nice thing about something like Instagram stories and stuff like that, is you can instantly put it out there.
Right.
But, obviously, like, what's cool about, platforms like yourself is, you kind of have a voice that you can use. And that's, it's cool to hear that you do that, because all it takes is one person getting into something and then sharing it with other people, and then sharing it with other people. And then just through the grapevine, you never know who's going to pop up. I've seen so many cool bands over the last couple of years be like these minuscule groups that are just a small speck on the map and then blow up over 2 years. And that's like the coolest thing to happen. But at the same time, like, if they don't like just instantly explode, they retain a more niche audience. Like, that's fine too. Those people are extremely passionate about it. And granted, a lot of the times that comes from the fact that not all these bands are the most like, palatable for like, the people who like more poppier stuff and things like that, which again, I like a lot of stuff that a lot of people don't like though. So, there's that element to it, but, it's cool.
If I like something that somebody else hasn't heard of, I'm going to fucking talk my ass off about it, because if I believe in it, you're gonna fucking hear about it. So.
Oh yeah, no, I'm the same way. It's like I get really into stuff, and I don't let anybody hear the end of it.
Same.
It's like I said about when I first discovered the like Abysmal Spectres stuff from Grimestone. like Old Nick, Bloody Keep, Curtain Wall. I didn't shut up about it because I was like, this stuff just rocks, man. And it's crazy how weirdly like accessible it is at the same time, and that it's this nasty black metal, but at the same time, it's like the catchiest stuff I've ever heard. So it's like, yeah, everyone's hearing about this. He just put out the first Bloody Keep debut LP. And I was like, I'm not shutting up about this. It's still my favorite album out this year. It's been a great year so far for music, but that's still my favorite as of now. Might not be as the time this comes out, but it probably will be.
Favorites change, man. That's the cool thing about music is like I've done the same thing with Ghost's albums. I guess to kind of like circle it back around. I've done the same with their albums,
right?
Because it's ever changing. Yeah. I think for me, Opus Eponymous is always going to be my very favorite from them, but the middle section of that always changes it. It's never like, oh, this sucks, or this is just better. It's just like, no, it's what I'm feeling, and like every mood switch, man.
Agreed.
Moods fucking switch.
Yeah, agreed. It's like, I feel like every time they put out a new album, I'm like, this is my favorite Ghost album.
Right.
Because I don't think they've put out a bad album. I really don't.
Same.
Same. And there's really not a song I don't like from that. I guess maybe like there are covers I like less than others, but I love most of their covers too. Like, I mean, like Enter Sandman, I was kind of about, but that's like me stretching to say, to find a low point. And that right. I really don't think they've had a low point. But then again, they did that for a really awesome charity, for trans kids, which is like super awesome. So like, even if I wasn't crazy about that cover, like I appreciate its existence.
Same.
So
same.
That's
dude.
a really awesome thing. And like I said, like Prequel is my favorite, but that's because I'm a sucker for like a rock opera. I love how thematic it is and how hard it commits to like. You could theoretically you could make a film out of that album.
You could.
I know like Tobias has talked about how his albums are like concept albums, but not really concept albums. They're concept in an albums. I believe, maybe I'm misquoting, but he said that they're concept albums in a way that Iron Maiden's albums are concept albums. Like Power Slaves is about pharaohs, but not capital P pharaohs. Like, sure, the song Power Slave is about pharaohs, but it's about rulers, it's about tyranny. It's about all that stuff. So, which is kind of what Impera was and why I really liked Impera. Prequel is my favorite album, but my favorite song is probably Respite on the Spitalfields. So,
same.
like,
that's a good song, man. It's
that thing of like, yeah, I have a favorite, but like my favorite song is not on my favorite total album. But not to say there's anything I dislike on Impera. Like, I think Impera is awesome. Even the suckers who don't like 20s, I say, fuck you.
Bro, 20s is a fucking banger.
It's just fierce, too. Like, I love that it's really just like a, fuck it, we're just getting weird with this. Like, I know that if I'm correct, I read this a while ago, but like, I know he said a big influence is stuff like Andrew Lloyd Webber, like Phantom of the Opera, Cats, and Jesus Christ Superstar. And you can hear that on that. It feels like a musical. It feels like a musical song.
Yeah, it does.
And I'm a sucker for musicals. So again, that's kind of why I like Prequel. Is it kind of feels like it could be a musical.
I was a choir geek.
So
I was a choir geek.
Yeah,
man.
there you go.
I was a choir geek. I was a fucking show band nerd. Like that's all right up my alley. So anytime I hear anything like that, I just want. Basically a Ghost Bohemian Rhapsody at this fucking point. Just give it to me. Give me if like Queen and Ghost wrote a fucking song together. Give me that shit. It was funny you were bringing up the covers.
When you can hear the Queen influence too.
Yeah, dude.
They have a lot of Queen influence. Like, God, it's weird because I remember when like Mummy Dust, like when I've been a fan, like basically I've been a fan since basically the beginning. I really came in at Infestissimum because I saw them for the first time in 2013, but I had heard them and I casually liked them, like 2010, 2011.
Right.
Just not like religiously, So, when something like to me, like Mummy Dust is a cross between like an Anthrax song and a Queen song, which is like, that's what I love about it. That's the beauty of it. It breaks down so many barriers, but brings them together in this like pop sound. And I say pop, and like pop is a good thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, listen, like anybody who's listening to this who may, just be not a fan of Ghost, but a fan of my work and like the heavier bands I work with, doesn't matter, man. If it's good, it's good. Like, that's what I believe. That's what I believe, you know?
Love what you
Anyway,
like,
sorry,
man.
covers.
No, you're good. I was gonna say, love what you like. And no, speaking of like the covers talk, like circle it back around for your art. The most recent piece, which I didn't mean to like skip over the coaster and Ghoul Castle designs, which I think are fucking fantastic.
Oh yeah.
Just like, where did the concept for these two come from? Because they're both a little bit alike, but vastly different as far as color scheme. Like one has much more cool colors to it. The other one is obviously a fucking hell roller coaster. It's so cool looking.
Yeah, no, it's well, like, so that was the second round of designs I did for them. I mean, I've done I'm just gonna say I've done a lot of designs for them. But from ones you've seen, I that was like the second kind of round when I was working with them after that initial round, which had like the Caligula and the Jack the Ripper one. And I was very much like, I actually pivoted in a lot of ways because those first ones I did traditionally, if anyone goes on my Instagram, they'll see that I have a very weird traditional process, which is mixed media. I do everything though, because most of my stuff, especially when I do like album covers and things like that, it's a traditional process, which is mixed media. It's an acrylic monoprint. So there's a paint element, and then I do colored pencil over all that to fine tune the details. And then I go in and I adjust things digitally. And I even do some digital painting in that side. So like, I really don't believe in eliminating any tools. I think it's all anything that benefits the artwork, as long as it's not AI, because I do not fucking believe in AI.
Fuck AI.
Absolutely, and it's only getting worse. Who knows if we'll even have Instagrams by the time this comes out? Because they're about to scrape all of our data.
Skynet's taking over.
So,
fuck.
Yeah, pretty much. But anyway, yeah, if we get to that, we get to that. But that's such a rabbit hole. Anyway, but with the pivot that I made between those first couple designs and then the second ones that have come out, and then I've had two more come out recently. I'm just going to group the gargoyle into all three into one group, even though it's three designs. Is that I did all those digitally. So the first couple had traditional elements, and then the second round that has the Ghoul Castle and the coaster, those are digital. So luckily, I try to make sure all my stuff looks cohesive, even if there's kind of a pivot there. So I even hit up Johnny and I was like, Johnny, what's the difference between these two? And he was like, I don't know. And I was like, good, that's the answer I wanted, because one is traditional and one is digital. So I was able to kind of replicate that style. Mainly that's because it's easier for screen printing and things like that. Granted, I don't really half-tone my work. I mostly just do it in transparent color layers, and then, the screen printing gurus over at Global Merch figure the rest of it out for me. But luckily, I was able to kind of break those up into colors. So, and really, it's like an effort of not repeating myself. So, there was like those early designs were a lot of reds and yellows. There's like a little bit of blue on the Jack the Ripper one, but like, it was mostly a red, bloody design. So I kind of went into like the Ghoul Castle with like, okay, I'll do like a bright blue and green that's like super cool, because I haven't done really any that are like primarily cool colors. And then it's like, I haven't done one that's like primarily oranges. So I did that on the coaster design. And to me, I guess if I start with the Ghoul Castle, even though I think I did the coaster first, I can't remember. We kind of did them in a batch where we did a bunch of designs together. But with the Ghoul Castle design, that was like an homage to me of like, what if we put literally everything, like every single era of Ghoul, every single era of Papa, what if we put it all on one shirt? Like, how's that possible? I mean, obviously that'd be a lot of stuff, which, yeah, sure, you could just show the heads of a bunch of stuff, but, floating heads can get boring kind of quickly. So, not to say there's anything wrong with it, but, I was like, well, what if we had this sort of like fantastical, and they've done castle stuff before, like with the pre-cal cover, but like it has kind of like and I'm not super into it, but like it has kind of a castle grayskull vibe to it. I just like castles. Really, I was like, sure, I'll make a bunch of heads in a castle. I mean, I'm really into medieval stuff, medieval art and medieval sculpture specifically is kind of my area of expertise when it comes to art history. But I was like, it's kind of to showcase my appreciation for every era they've had. Because again, like I first got into Ghost, really in the early days, I saw my first experience was seeing Papa Emeritus 2. I never got to see 1, which is a bummer. I had an opportunity and I didn't take it, which I regret.
Oh, shit.
I never saw 3. Yeah, I never saw 3. I never saw Copia because I was in college for a little bit of a time and I just never had access to go to shows. So that I guess shows my age. But yes, I'm 27 right now. So during the Meliora, Popestar, and then Prequel, that was all while I was in school. So I couldn't go to those shows, it's unless I knew someone who could drive with me to Atlanta. And then I have a car. So, it's really kind of just my appreciation of all those eras. Cause they're all in there. Like if you look closely, like, you could see all the ghouls pretty clearly, but all the popes are in there too, in each little like window it has, all the way back, there's just a hood and you can see, you can't really tell cause it's just a shadow, but like it's Papa Emeritus 1. And then you go to Papa Emeritus 2 with the eyes wide shut style, Bauta mask.
Yeah.
And then, it has both types of Prequel ghouls, which I kind of miss those masks. Those were probably my favorite.
Yeah, I love those too.
The silver devil masks were always cool. It's got the Goulette on there. And then the big crazy mechanical one they have now, which is the one up front. Mainly because we're in the Papa 4 era and I wanted to showcase Papa 4. I actually tried to not put Papa 4 on there. I wanted to do only the ghouls and put them like in the windows only, but they were like, nah, like we want to have Papa kind of up front. So he's kind of tacked on in the front, like this big green Papa ghost, phantom.
He's making his cameo.
Welcoming you in. Yeah, no, you kind of have to, it's kind of a guideline with them is to make sure he's prominent in there, which I get because it's kind of the visual basis of the band.
Right.
But yeah, that's kind of the vibe with the Ghoul Castle. And, but yeah, I wanted to showcase the entire history because I appreciate where they came from and where they are now. And it's like, I wanted it to be like, a fan could maybe pinpoint like, hey, that's like, if you point at that area, that's where I came in on, that's where I came in on. It's like, there's no such thing as too late. It's like, I envy all the people who are coming into it right now and get to experience it all for the first time. So that kind of like appreciation and enjoyment is the angle I took with that design. And yeah, with the coaster, it's actually funny. I go to Halloween Horror Nights in Orlando every year. It's such a fun event. I love like haunted houses and stuff. And I was like looking at all the Universal parks, like crazy, just ridiculous theme park merch, where there's like, people flying off of roller coasters. Like just this crazy stuff. And I was like, well, I don't know if they've ever done a roller coaster design before. So like, what if we made up this crazy, like, what if it was like Ghost DLC on Roller Coaster Tycoon? So that was kind of the vibe I had with that. That's like an end game goal is I want to do like merch one of these years for them. That'd be really cool. And it was fun because I was there that one year and I was like, wow, like it would be really cool to make a roller coaster design. And then the next year I wore that shirt design to Horror Nights. And it was like, yeah, it's kind of a cool full circle moment. But
there you go.
I don't know. Maybe the roller coaster might be my favorite. I don't know. I just think it's got such a cool camp energy to it. I love like I see a sliver of it right now on my wall, but like, I don't know. All the little details I put in that is like, I don't know. It's just such a like fun camp, like skeletons in a ghoul coaster car. And I love like dark rides and stuff like that. Where I grew up in the Portland area, there's an incredible, very DIY theme park called the Enchanted Forest. And it's been around since like the 70s, but it was like basically built by this one guy of all these cement sculptures and these there's one roller coaster and it's super rickety and you kind of feel like you're going to die on it. And I kind of wanted to evoke that like crazy over the top danger element.
Yeah, this looks like a roller coaster that was an action park.
Yeah, exactly. Action Park is a great example. If they had budgets for animatronics.
No shit.
Then again, if they had a budget, they probably would have had safety precautions.
Yeah, exactly. Come ride the roller coaster, you know.
Yeah, literally, it was based on, like, there's the one line in Spillways, and it's such a ride. And I was like, yep, there's my roller coaster design. I know, I really wanted to, like, I don't think I pitched this. I never remember really what I did, because it's like, since then, it's like just, I've done so many random things, the memory gets a little jumbled, and I just have shit memory to begin with, so. But, you know, it's like, it would have been awesome to have, like, somewhere to say, like, it's such a ride on there, somewhere like that.
Oh, yeah.
But those two were Amazon designs, I think. Yeah, they were Amazon designs, which technically it's funny. I hear people complain about the Amazon quality designs, and, you know, yeah, I wish they were screen printed. Those are digital prints. So it's sometimes, I guess it's too bad that they're digital prints, but I always say this. I set up my shirts so that they're in multiple color layers that are separated so that you can screen print them. Well, they would have to halftone them and then screen print them, but, you know, who's counting? So I will say, artist quality approved. All of the Amazon shirts I've gotten, because the Thorns one I just did was an Amazon. They ended up putting it on Amazon. I never know where they're putting it until it's basically out. But that was an Amazon one, and you know what? The way they're set up, they're very much tricked into looking like they're screen printed. So I think you might not know if you didn't know, you know, if you're just looking at it. So there's my thing of, like, if you're worried about getting one of those, don't be worried. They look fine, in my opinion. And
pro tip out there, if you have issues with maybe any shirt, and this goes for any t-shirt, because I do this with all my shit, because I baby the fuck out of them. Wash your shirt inside out, cold wash, gentle, and hang dry it. It will preserve the design on the t-shirts.
Yeah, don't listen to me. I have a 4-sided Necrot long sleeve that used to be a beautiful print from 2020, and it looks like this now.
You got the thumb hole.
So listen to Richie, not me. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Back to when I was in high school in 2011, and, you know, everyone was doing this.
Dude, I still do it. Fuck it.
Yeah.
that actually brings me to the other design I wanted to talk to you about before we wrapped up today, because there was so much chatter about it, and I try to tell people, and this is why I'm asking you, because I want to get it just from you. I tried to tell people, I'm like, I don't think there is much that you should be looking into other than the fact that the gargoyle design that I read about from Noah himself was based on the crow. Is that true?
Primarily, yeah. Like, spiritually, I would say.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
There's a bunch of different. It's based on, like, because I don't exactly know what people are saying. I read some comments, but I end up missing a lot of them, especially when designs get posted. However, you know, the gargoyle design primarily was like, it was a mixture of, like, I just wanted to do a gargoyle. I just thought that would be cool. But, like, the side view, I always loved the side profiles of, like, Notre Dame. You know, literally that's a combination of, like, 3 different Notre Dame gargoyles is what I used reference from. And then, like, the blood part basically is, like, I mean, The Crow is one of my all-time favorite movies.
Big same.
Yeah. And big spoilers, y'all. The Crow's been out, like, for 30 years. Top dollar's death scene in the end, where he gets impaled on a gargoyle and it spits blood. Like, It's not like the shot doesn't echo it. However, it basically, I was like, I love, like, the gargoyle on the side of the building, like, spitting blood idea. So that's kind of what I sort of based that on, just that general concept. And then, like, it kind of has some influence from, like, the 90s Dracula as well.
That's what I saw too. So that's fucking awesome. You know, I'm glad that translated well.
Yeah. Yeah. Were people saying that it was Crow inspired?
Yeah, no, people were speculating that it might have had something to do with movie plot. And I was like, no, because I don't believe anybody other than the people involved directly in making this thing know exactly what the fuck is going down. Like, this is an artist's interpretation. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
it is funny to always see that. What I appreciate about fans of the band is, like, they do reach a lot to try and find things in things, and I appreciate the hunt. but I hate to tell you guys, 99% of the time it is because I think it looks cool. like everyone was like, oh man, like Caligula, they're gonna assassinate Copia, and it's like, I just like Caligula.
Right?
I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm supposed to be keeping the illusion alive. But really, like, I've had people ask, like, what is the meaning behind this? Like, is there a specific meaning to this? And it's like, nah, man, like, I hate to say it, there's usually really tight deadlines for this, and I just need to come up with something cool really fast.
Right.
So, like,
Papa's gonna blow up on a roller coaster. No, dude, I just like Halloween Horror Nights at Universal. Fuck.
Yeah. No, exactly. So, yeah. And then it's like, it's funny though, because I've had people say, like, when you say things like that, is like, I've had some instances where, like, for example, the front facing, the hip design on the sweats for the gargoyle, which is just a front facing Papa. I've had some people be like, oh, is this based, or the bat, the hanging bat. They're like, is this based on this other like Ghost fan artist's bat designs? Is this based on, and like the answer in short is no. Like, I really, like, I appreciate other like Ghost fan artists, but I do try to not take a lot of it in so that it doesn't influence what I'm doing. And therefore, we don't arrive at that conclusion. I've seen a lot of really sick Ghost fan art, and I hope a lot of y'all wind up making official stuff for them. But, like, if there's any similarities, I hate to say it, like, there are front-facing Papas with their tongues out. There are Papas with bat wings. He has bat wings on stage. So, like, no, like, I respect every other artist who has made, like, cool Ghost art. And there's so much fan art out there, but, like, I promise you, nothing I am doing is based on any fan art or anything else. I try to keep it as original as possible, but unless it's like a parody design, but like based on like a movie or something like that. But right. I honestly try to not do that as much anymore because I like to kind of do the more original style things. But
yeah,
people like to read into it. I know it's like part of the way they can engage with it, and it's fun to do that, but nah, like I hate to say it. I do try to keep things as like, I don't think I would be much of an artist if I was trying to rip off a fan's design,
Right. And I like that you try to keep it original too. Like, because as much as we love the parody designs, I would much rather see what's in your brain. What, what is it? What is it that turns your gears? What is it that inspires you that you can maybe bring to the table for this band and introduce like an art style to a new audience that has never heard of this art style or literally anything like that? So, I guess with that being said, obviously no fucking spoilers, no fucking details on it, but are there some art, and I'm sure there are there art designs that you have recently submitted to the band that you're waiting for approval on? And are there any that you're just like, okay, it's okay if this one doesn't get approved, but is there one in particular that you're like, okay, if any of them have to be approved or get approved, like this is the one I want?
No comment. Take that as you will.
Gotcha.
I will say that I have had a very good, consistent working relationship with the merch team and the creative team and whatnot. That's what I'll say.
Good.
And I have a lot of respect for those people. And shout out to y'all if you're listening. I don't know if I want to put names out there because I don't know if they want to get blown up, But the people I work with, I enjoy working with, and we've had a good working relationship, past, present, and wherever it goes from here. So I hope to see a Papa 5 reveal soon, so then I can finally move on from Papa 4. I like Papa 4, but I'm a little tired of looking at that man's wrinkles all up close all the time.
Yeah, I'll tell you right
reference,
now. Yeah, I'll tell you right now. I'm one of the few people out there, and I say few because like obviously the general consensus is that no, we love Papa 4 too much, and I'm like, dude, I want a new Papa. Obviously, this is aired after the movie has come out, but like, I want a new Papa. That's what I want. I want to experience a new Papa. I want a new face to go with like whatever the new music's going to be.
Yeah.
And then I want new designs because like, obviously,
well, and that's what's cool. Yeah. That's how they keep things fresh and how they keep things kind of turning. And that's something I really appreciate about that. And for the record, I have absolutely no knowledge of like future Papas, future ghouls, future plot stuff, album stuff. I mean, I'm just as in the dark as everyone else. So
right.
I am just as hopeful as all of y'all. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's fun to speculate.
Otherwise, I would probably be breaking some agreement, and I wouldn't want to do that.
Like some agreement that you didn't even know you fucking signed, or some agreement that you didn't even know was existed. Like I just like you speculate about something.
I'm very aware of my agreement terms, and I don't even share. Like I don't even show stuff to friends. Like
right.
Like in the past, like when I've been working on things and they haven't come out, I don't even, because it's just like I'm too paranoid about that stuff. You know,
I don't blame you.
Yeah, for the record, if anyone tries to DM me over Instagram trying to get info, I have no info for you because I'm just as in the dark as you are.
Yep. And that's how it's going to stay, because I'm fucking excited to be part of the shroud that's over. Like, I want to be surprised. I want to genuinely have my fucking breath taken away when something cool happens. Like, oh, fuck yeah. I want that excitement. I want goosebumps. I want the excitement, the drama.
I agree. The surprise and like the rollout of like that new stuff is so exciting every time. It's like when a movie you're excited about is coming out, or like a new game or something like that. I liken it to the same thing. They do treat it in a way that's kind of almost pop cultural in that way, almost different from how like a lot of bands typically do it. It's almost like the audience over the years has shifted more than like. Back when I first saw them, it was pretty much just like metal fans who were checking out this weird band with a guy in a mask, and now it is almost more of like if you're a fan of, like a movie series or a game series or something like that. So it's cool how they bring so many mediums together like that. So
right. It's a full experience. It's an event,
Yeah, it's an event. That's what I love about it. And obviously I've seen them in concert. Actually, only twice. So, because I saw him in 2013 and then I saw him in 2022.
Which was the more fun experience for you of those two?
The new. It's so different because like nowadays they're like this spectacle, and back in the day they just felt so mysterious. Because when I saw them originally, the anonymity was still a thing.
Yeah.
And I think if Tobias had it his way, the anonymity would still be a thing, which is why I don't really focus as much on Tobias. I focus on his creation, like I'm not trying to like create some parasocial relationship with a guy I don't really know,
Correct.
So, and I try to keep it that way because, it's like, I appreciate all of his influences and things like that. But, it's, back in the day, it was like back in the day, which is weird to say, but like, I mean, it was like over 10 years ago.
Right.
So when I was in high school and I first saw them, it was like just this weird, mysterious thing. It was genuinely like a spooky experience, and I was on edge, and I was, as opposed to the new thing, it's like this grand, over the top experience, which I love. I love that that's the direction it's gone. And I hope it keeps going in that direction, and it seems that it will. So they were both very different, but I appreciate both. And I wish I could have seen them in subsequent years leading up to it. Like I wish I could have seen Papa 3. I wish I could have seen Copia, but which I guess I did, but I didn't see his cardinal form. But again, it's just cool to see the lore unveil and all that stuff. That's what I love about it.
Same. And I know, just like Noah is, and the rest of you guys are out there listening, I'm looking forward to whatever the fuck this band has in store for us in the future. So, yeah. Noah, where can everybody find you if they want to follow you on socials or they want to check out your portfolio or any of that stuff, man?
Yeah, so obviously I'm on Instagram, NC Meihoff. It's just first two initials, last name. That's pretty much all I'm on. I'm not really on Twitter anymore. I don't really use it. It just didn't really help me very much. So I have one, but it's just private. But my website's also ncmeihoff.com. I'll make sure it's updated by the time you're hearing this. So if you want to see stuff, you're not looking at like 3-month-old website, which is where it currently stands. So yeah, check me out on my website. Check me out on Instagram is where I post a lot of stuff. I do a lot of process stuff, a lot of shit posting on my stories, complaining about AI, and also just, this and that, gushing over stuff I like. Mostly just me playing video games and crap like that. So
it's always a good time, man. So like if anybody out there,
that's about it.
Yeah, if anybody out there wants to follow you, I'll make it easy for you. Scroll up to the show notes below and click the links provided, and you can follow Noah just as easily as a fucking thumb tap. So do it. No, I really, really appreciate you taking time out of your day to come hang out with me and chat. This has been a fucking delight. I have had a blast with you, and I love knowing that there's a shitload we have in common, movie-wise, musically, and all that other stuff, man. It's been a pleasure to get to know you a little more and just hang out and shit. It's been fun.
Likewise, yeah. This is awesome.
You're welcome on anytime you want to come back. If you want to talk about like any other art projects you've got going on, or, you know, if you want to come talk about like horror movies with me and just bullshit about that,
totally.
I'm always down to clown. You have my fucking social, you know where to find me, and I know where to find you. So again, the invitation.
Totally. Yeah. And if you're ever interested in, just having me back on, if you ever have anything specific you want to talk about, this and that, just hit me up and we'll make it work.
Fuck yeah. Noah, thanks a lot, my friend. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
Take care of yourself, bud.
All right, take it easy.
And again, everybody, if you want to follow Noah on social media, I'll have the links in the show notes below, including his website where you can view all of his portfolio relating to every band that we have talked about today. For past, present, and future episodes of GonstFM Off Air, you can subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. You can leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. You can leave a rating and comment on individual episodes on Spotify. And if you're listening to this on YouTube, leave a comment below, click the like button, consider subscribing to the channel, and click the bell for notifications for future episodes. If you would like to join us for one of our monthly GonstFM Station Head radio rituals, if you would like to buy official GonstFM merchandise, or if you'd like to join the official GonstFM Facebook group, GonstFam, all of this can be found in the show notes below. And so, my dearest Gonstlings, that brings today's episode to a close. Some of you I will see in Internet Land. And the rest of you, I will see in GonstFam. Take care of yourselves. And remember, until next time, in Gonst, we Tronst. I'm Richie. I'll see you next time.